Welcome to the Better Sex Podcast. My name is Deborah Catt, and I am your shameless host. This is the Better Sex Podcast, where we have unfiltered conversations about sex and relationships and the many possibilities of sex and relationships, so you can figure out what works for you and have better sex on your terms. I truly believe that a sexy world creates a happier and a safer world. If you want to do your part to create a sexy world, please hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Today, we are going to dive into the world of my guest, Dr. Elliot Justin. He is the CEO and founder of Firmtech, the first sex tech company dedicated to improving men's erectile fitness. He has a background in emergency medicine, healthcare technology consulting, and I am so delighted to have him with me here today. So welcome, Dr. Justin. Elliot, it's so good to have you here. I have been thinking about our conversation, and I'm really curious, where did Firmtech come from?
Well, to go way back, I've always been particularly interested in sex. I don't think there are many doctors, or men for that matter, whose mothers took them to urologists at age 17 because of their masturbation habit, because she was worried that I wouldn't get into college. So that was unique. The first time I went, the guy felt that, well, if you wanted to know how often I was masturbating, I said, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times a day. And he thought that was excessive. I listened, but I didn't take him seriously. The second time, my junior of high school, the doctor said, "You'll be free of your mother in 2 years. Just be patient." So I've always been particularly interested in sex, and living out here in Montana, I own horses, and I sometimes have this illusion that I'm a centaur, that I'm one with my horse. And that can sometimes be a problem. Like, imagine you're like one with your motorcycle. So back in 2015, I was riding recklessly down a trail and had a horse wreck and broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae. And as I was lying there on the ground, and my back was broken, but fortunately I knew that my spinal cord wasn't damaged, but became interested in what's gone on to rehabilitate men, or women for that matter, who suffered spinal cord injuries, rehabilitate the sexual function specifically. And there were 5 medical papers saying that they'd achieved this by implanting electrodes by the cavernous nerve, everyone's favorite nerve that no one ever heard about. It's the nerve that's involved with producing orgasms.
Wait. You can't just say this nerve produces orgasms and then move on. And where is this nerve located?
Well, the nerve's located in the penis and the clitoris. And it's really tiny. I mean, it's just like a fine thread. It's actually you really have to dissect to find it. So before I experimented on humans, I experimented on 2 rams, male sheep, and we implanted electrodes in them, and we got erection and ejaculation. Actually, we got ejaculation once and erections twice. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn this thing off. Sorry about that. And then we also got defecation and urination. So it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly. I mean, maybe in certain fetish communities, like in Providence or San Francisco, it might work, but it wasn't bedroom friendly. So since I kind of regard this as a personal science fair project, instead of raising money and going down to some place like Brazil and testing it on a bunch of men, I decided to test it on myself. So I had a urologist friend implant electrode by my cavernous nerve, and nothing happened. I called this Project O, obvious reasons. It was a failure. Mm-hmm. But imagine the benefit if you could control that nerve. Imagine the benefit of people, especially people who are aging, people who have diseases. Mm-hmm. It will really be extraordinary. That said, back in 2000, maybe about 3 years ago, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about this and said, "Gee, I want to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have." And I said, "Well, why? I mean, we all know about morning wood and we laugh about it, but why do we care about nocturnal erections?" He said they are a leading indicator of men's cardiovascular health. Mm-hmm. And I thought, really? a leading indicator, I mean, that would be like a sixth vital sign. That would be profoundly valuable because um, in medicine, we often treat things just on the basis of association. So
Mm-hmm.
high blood pressure, I mean, almost half the adult population has high blood pressure. And what do? We medicate it. And 80 million people, 75 million people have blood pressure cuffs at home, track their blood pressure. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just association. But leading indicator means it's predictive. So if a man has 3 to 5 nocturnal erections per night on average, and that number goes down to 1 or 2 or 0, that man's going to have a heart attack or a stroke. It's predictive. A leading indicator means it's predictive. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this urologist, like most straight urologists, who's not familiar with sex toys, I am. So my thought was, why limit this to just nocturnal erections? Let's embed sensors into a cock ring and be able to assess all erections. So, worn overnight, the tech ring that we sold thousands of, the tech ring can count the number of nocturnal erections, measure the duration, measure their firmness, and this helps men and the healthcare providers to assess diseases, the impact of medications, the value of supplements, quality of sleep, impact of alcohol, recreational drugs upon sleep and upon sexual health. Well, we also do. It can also be worn during sex, and that's really what concerns men more. And what do men care more about? What do I care more about? My erections at night, or what's going on when I'm trying to have sex? So it worn during sex, we can measure the impact of diseases, medications, diet, supplements, relationships too upon one's sexual performance. So this is profoundly valuable. So not only like an electrocardiogram stress test for your penis, but it can also give you really powerful information about your performance and pleasure while trying to do what everyone likes doing the most.
I just want to be really clear. So they're wearing the cock ring, and it's got electrodes implanted in it, and that is giving you information about blood flow, about firmness, about overall health.
Yeah, it has sensors in it. Here it is.
Uh-huh.
There's a pressure gauge there, a strain gauge there. Yeah, I'll show you on a dildo how it goes on differently than most erection rings. It does not go slide down the shaft. Wraps around the balls.
Mm-hmm.
It closes easy on off with a hook.
Okay. I'm going to ask, oh, there you go. Could you turn it this so very cool.
So I had to, in order to, and so as the penis expands, it
Mm-hmm.
presses on the strain gauge, pulls on the strain gauge, and presses on the pressure sensor, and with that, then we can measure the firmness, and then we can time the duration. And next year we'll be adding pulse. We'll be adding an accelerometer, so we can actually tell what positions people are having sex in. We have a lot of fun with this device in the future. But for now, it has two important functions. One, we're providing people with vital data about their sexual and their cardiovascular health.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is I had to reinvent the cock ring. So cock rings never really caught on among straight men. I mean, 90% of gay guys who are sexually active use them regularly. Only 10% of straight men do, because they're like these hard silicone gaskets or noose on your dick. Who wants that? I mean, I played around with them. My wife and I will get one. They're called novelties for a reason, because they're not something you want to. They're novel. Not something you want to use regularly, and they haven't caught on because they're made of hard silicone. They're uncomfortable. They pinch. You can only wear them safely for 20 to 30 minutes. They cut off the flow. So you have to have an erection first before you put on, because it's going to cut off the arterial flow. And if you have diabetes or hypertension, sustained cutting off the arterial flow can actually be dangerous. And then you have, this just like snapping a hard rubber band on. And look, if you put on a bra that was 4 sizes too small, you want the fucking thing off right away, right? So that's what most cock rings are like for men. Because we put up with it, because a guy with a hard on doesn't think normally. You could probably stab a guy with a hard on in the back and he'd still keep thrusting. They bled out. So men put up with these hard rings, but they're uncomfortable. So our rings are made out of, I'll show you again.
So
They're made out of
before you go there, I just want to, for people who haven't had a chance to use cock rings, the reason that you would want one is because they help to firm up an erection if it needs assistance. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Well, they're actually better than that. So they help to sustain an erection.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have an erection first, because it holds the blood in, so you're not going to lose the erection. They will get you harder too. So yeah, but I think that's what you're saying. What you're saying is certainly fair.
Okay, great. I just, for some people who, don't have any experience with these things, I like to make sure that they
Sure.
are part of the conversation as well. And so the way they work is they hold the blood in, and that they allow for more firmness. And then my understanding is that at orgasm, you have to free the cock, if you will, and undo it. Is that
That's
accurate?
not true. Well, a well-designed cock ring will still allow ejaculation, but sometimes they can be so tight that they can interfere with ejaculation. You actually you have to take it off in order to ejaculate, or else you have a retro ejaculation, which can be uncomfortable. It's not dangerous. It just means the sperm goes back up. It's not dangerous. I mean, if you did it all the time, it could lead to an infection, but that's not. Oh, that's really rare. But retroejaculation is just not as satisfying to either partner, frankly.
So your cock ring is it's made of a silicone,
Elastomer. It's made of a medical grade elastomer as opposed to silicone. So elastomers are soft. Silicone makes you adapt to them. So women understand this because when wear bras, and the bras, the silicone strap in the back, and at the end of the day, they want it off. I mean, as I joke people, and people confirm this. I think that probably half the heterosexual sex in the world in committed relationships or marriages starts with a wife wanting or partner wanting their back to be scratched when the bra is taken off. And that's actually how I got the idea for the closure on the device.
Mm-hmm.
Closes the hook. I saw my wife's bra on the ground, and I thought, duh, what is a bra? It's a ring that opens and closes. Why don't we make a cock ring that's not just a ring, but a cock ring that can open and close? That way it's easier to put on. It's easier to take off. And so, we've actually patented that, although I'm certain it'll be stolen by someone. So our ring was designed to be put on when men are flaccid, because
Mm-hmm.
it had to be count nocturnal erections at night, and men aren't erect the entire night. So we don't block the arterial flow in. We only constrain the venous return. So our rings can be worn, if you're wearing them during sex, they'll be worn for longer sex sessions. And I don't know about you, but I suspect you'd like to have sex more than 20, 30 minutes. I'd like to have sex about 45, 50 minutes. So our ring is safe and comfortable if you want for longer sex sessions. Plus, they can also be worn overnight. But there's one product that we have without the technology called the Maximum Performance Ring that was specifically designed to produce a more intense orgasm in men.
Oh.
So that's been a goal of a lot of these stroker companies. Personally, I don't like strokers. I don't think you can improve upon a hand or a mouth. Stroker,
And just again, for people not familiar with sex toys, what is a stroker?
a stroker is essentially a sleeve that goes over the penis that that in general is held with a hand. The new ones vibrate. You can get different vibratory sensations, but I don't think that you can get the type of feedback that a man does while masturbating from your hand. And with put it this way: when people tell me, like to use the modern phrase "penis owner," I laugh because my wife owns my penis. It happens to be part of my body, but she's a genius with her hands, and most women in relationships quickly become that as well too. It's hard to reproduce the sensation that you get from hand or mouth, for that matter. So, I'm a real advocate of cock rings, and I wasn't before because they were novelties,
Mm-hmm.
and now I don't have sex without them. So this ring that we invented, the Maximum Performance Ring, we specifically designed to prolong the ejaculation.
Mm-hmm.
So by prolonging the ejaculation, we draw out the orgasm. So we designed it to increase the ejaculation by 50%, and for most men. And my orgasm goes from 4 seconds to 7 seconds, ejaculation that is. And that produces. Yeah, exactly. So I actually will find myself chewing on a pillow or I'm noisy for the first time, which my wife likes a lot. She says she's glad the kids are out of the house. She's probably right there. It's good.
So I'm curious, how much of erectile dysfunction is medical, and how much of it would you say is psychological? And
that's a great question because we don't know, and it can be multifactorial. So, it's felt that 30% of men by age 30 have 28%, but close to 30% by age 30 have erectile dysfunction. By age 50, it's 50%. I'm 71. By my age, it's a little bit over 70%. As one gets older, medical factors and medications enter into it. So diabetes and hypertension are probably the two big cock killers. Medications, the antihypertensives and the antidepressants are the big cock killers. Click killers too, probably. These are the same problems that women have. But younger men who tend to be healthier, with them it's more performance anxiety. And that's really where a ring is really valuable, because a ring is a confidence builder. Especially a ring like ours, because if you know that once you get hard, even with minimal stimulation, you're going to be able to sustain an erection for a longer period of time, that wipes out the anxiety. Because most men's problems, especially young men's problems, is not they can't attain erection. If a man can't attain an erection, he needs to see a specialist. And I mean a urologist. I don't think your family doctor and your internist, they'll just prescribe pills. And the pills might put more blood into your penis, but they don't keep it there. And a man who can't attain erection should see a doctor. But that's only a minority of the men who have ED. Most men who have ED can attain an erection, but they can't sustain it. So they can't sustain it because they're anxious. They can't sustain it because of distraction, alcohol, recreational drugs, or disease, or medications. So I can't answer your number specifically, but I can say that from my perspective, if a man I'll pick up a man aged 30 who's not in a committed relationship, who's dating, which is more anxiety producing, has experienced erectile dysfunction, the first thing you should do, my opinion, is to put a ring on it. After that, add a pill, because the pills will put more blood in the penis, and a good ring, ours of course being the best, but there are less expensive rings like the lasso that are effective as well too. Will help to sustain an erection. But all men, and it's okay from my perspective for guys 30 to go online and get some pills. But for an older man, 45 or 50, that's where the data becomes valuable. Because as you enter the heart disease age, the age of atherosclerosis, hypertension, diabetes, arteriosclerosis, you want data. And I'm confident that what we're doing on the tech side will become the standard of care, not just in urology, but in general medicine, because it is like a sex vital sign.
And you're saying when you say data, you're talking about personal data about their erections, about their circulatory system, so that they can actually take that data and either discuss it with their medical person, or they can then use the technology that you've created, which is amazing, to help them have longer erections. And please, not longer elections, longer erection. And more confidence. And I would imagine, I know this, I've noticed this with my clients, is that like the more confidence they have, the more they can actually put attention on their partners and not have the attention on like, oh my God, am I going to stay hard? Am I going to lose my erection? Am I going to come too close, too quickly? Am I going to, be able to come at all? Would you say?
Exactly. And we've had men at both extremes. So if a man is having full nocturnal erections and can't get up with a partner, there's probably something going on in the relationship, or the guy's cheating. And we have had two cases I'm aware of men being caught, basically, because if you have the app and you don't have a password protected, someone else can pick up your phone and say, "Hey, how come you can't get up with me when I saw you having sex 2:00? I see you had sex 2:00 in the afternoon yesterday." And at the other extreme, if a man is not having nocturnal erections or weak nocturnal erections, then someone is getting wrist fatigue or jaw fatigue for nothing, because it ain't happening. That man who has weak nocturnal erections needs to see a doctor.
So, in terms of like, what is the average of nocturnal erections?
Well, the average man has 3 to 5 per night,
Hmm.
and
And that would be a healthy man.
that would be a healthy man. I've had as many as 7. Um, it really depends upon whether one has sex before one goes to bed, or whether there are medication issues and sleep stress issues that can enter into it. But most men on average have 3 to 5 per night. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious, like, so how does masturbation and self-pleasure enter into, like, does it enhance or does it like take away?
Well, if what I've noticed myself is if I masturbate or have sex before I go to bed, um, my average nocturnals goes down from 4 to 5 to 2 to 3. But I don't care because I've already, urologists speculate that the role of nocturnal erections is to provide increased blood flow to an organ, and that needs blood flow in order to sustain its vitality. Same thing is at least our thesis, and we're going to prove this is felt to be the case for clitoral arousal at night. That it's a way of maintaining blood flow to a vital organ. So if if my number goes down from 4 to 5, 2 to 3, I don't care because I think doctors make recommendations about it. So many things: sleep, diet, exercise, medication compliance. We need to start making recommendations about sex because the penis it's really about using it or losing it. And if you don't use it, especially as you get older, it will atrophy. And why why have an atrophied penis when sex is so much fun?
Well, yeah, and as you're pointing out, I mean, having sex and having, is not just good for your health, not just good for your relationship, but keeps your cardiovascular system going, is an indication um of overall health. And I was really surprised when we started talking about the connection between the nocturnal erections and heart disease. Um, and I mean, the more I've talked to you, the more that's made sense. But I'm curious, like, can you tell us a little bit about, like, so first of all, when people use your product, your cock ring, like, what happens for them? What are some of the experiences that they can expect?
Well, if they're going to wear it overnight, the tech ring will make your nocturnal erections last a little bit longer, and that's probably helpful because it's just an increase in the blood flow. There's also, personally, I've noticed that I'm more aware of sex dreams I have at night because I think my erections at night are lasting longer. But one during sex, especially with I don't have sex out the maximum performance ring now. I am harder. I last longer, and my orgasms are more intense. And they're we have data showing that it's comparing the maximum performance ring to PD5 medications, but we specifically tied to Dalafil. And you will last longer with a ring than you will with medication in general, and that's great. So I guess personally, what I've noticed, and we hear this from our patients as well too, is that it's a profound confidence builder. By patients, I mean customers. I'm a doctor. I make that mistake all the time. It's a profound confidence builder for both people.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of men's major complaints, at least married men's major complaints about women, is that in the middle of sex they'll start talking about something else, even when they're really turned on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really annoying to men. So we don't understand it. And I'll just give an example in my own life as to how this has changed our life. But when I first came up with this form this new type of cock ring. We live in Montana. It was February, a year ago, February. And in the middle of sex, my wife remembered that she left the garage door open and it was snowing. So, the guy has to get up and do this. She can jump out of bed from underneath me and say, "You stay right there." No, it's the man's role to do this. I went and closed the garage door, and ordinarily that would have been a what the fuck moment in our sex life. Like, what the fuck? Can't hold this thought to yourself for 5 minutes. We're just both about to climax. Then, as I'm coming up the stairs, she tells me, "Well, you know that tequila that I like? Can you put some on ice with a little bit of lime?" That ordinarily for me, after being married like 34 years, 35 years, would have been another what the fuck moment. Get your own tequila kind of moment. And when I'm having sex tonight, I'm really irritated. I'm grumpy. Let's go to bed. Instead, I come upstairs and I'm like 75% hard. And she laughs and says, "Yep, the ring's a game changer, isn't it?" Because I wasn't complaining, because I'm now a guy with an erection. And guys with erection think differently than guys who don't have erections. So Annie and I, she's in the room here right now. She and I make love longer, more positions, because there isn't the rush to orgasm. Previously, as you get older, you lose your erections faster, and that puts pressure on women as well too. So they previously, going back a couple of years, there would have been this: we're both turned on. Let's try to come the next 5 to 10 minutes, because we're not going to last. Because women have similar issues too as they get older. We're not going to last as long. We might lose it. But now with the ring on, we find ourselves making out more. We can talk about other things. We make love more indirectly with more foreplay, because there isn't this, he might lose the erection or she might get turned. She's going to lose it as well too. It's an enormous confidence builder for both parties, and we hear about that from our customers, regularly, especially people are getting older. So my advice to everyone, all men, put a ring on. Get over your inhibitions, because men don't get it about a lot of straight guys, especially, have this attitude of it's for gay guys, or it's for fetish, or they're too proud. They don't want to admit it. I don't need that. Well, it's not really about need. It's about want. The question men need to ask themselves, or women need to ask their men, women need to take the lead on this too often. Do you want to last longer? Do you want to have a more intense orgasm? And every guy will say yes. And only a ring can do that.
Yeah. And, as I'm hearing you say that, what I'm really hearing is that, like, if you don't have to rush, if it doesn't have to be get it up, get it on, get it over, because you're afraid that you're going to lose it, like, there's so much more possibility. And I would imagine that there's more connection available. And, as you were talking about, like, the nocturnal erections, I mean, in my own mind, where I went was like, oh boy, something to play with while he's still sleeping. I'm curious. So here's something I'm really curious about, and this may or may not be your world, but, like, so it seems like men want to have sex more in the morning, and women want to have sex more in the evening. Is that just like anecdotal, or is there actually?
I've heard that women want to have sex more in the morning, and men in the evening. I've heard the reverse. I will say that my wife and I now have more sex in the morning and the evening. At the evening, sort of like many couples who haven't given up on sex, and you and I both know that too many couples just fucking give up. It becomes, even young people. I'm shocked when I speak to people in their late 20s and 30s who are married and having sex like 3 times a month. Like, what? I don't understand that. You're missing out on not just the pleasure, but you're missing out on the romantic connection. I mean, if that's where you are at age 35, where are you going to be at age 45 or 55? The relationship just becomes transactional at that point. Well, we got kids, we got a house. It's really important if you want to maintain the romance relationship, you have to be making love, and you have to be making love in a non-transactional, generous manner. Meaning, everyone gives 100%. It isn't, Ed, you do this, I do. It's not it's not a transaction, in my opinion. So I'm a real advocate of people. If people find themselves making love less, plan for pleasure, just the way you do. Look, Deborah, if you were I'm a good cook. If you were coming for dinner tonight, it wouldn't be, Oh, Deborah arrives in 5 minutes. Let's be spontaneous. Let's see what's in the refrigerator. Leftover rotisserie chicken and some old broccoli. That would suck. And that's what happens when people think, oh, I'm just going to make love spontaneously, because they often end up not doing it because there are always reasons not to do it. I'm tired. I got to work. I got this project, kid, blah, blah, blah. If you come for dinner, I would plan a meal. And people, it's not that hard to plan lovemaking. Hey, here are 3 things I want to do, and then communicate that, to your partner. And then, things become spontaneous as well too. But at least you have a framework that you're working with. You don't, if you're going to train in the gym, you don't just show up and say, what am I in the mood for today? No, you have a plan. Matter of fact, if you work with a trainer, they got a fucking whiteboard. I'm not suggesting that you put a whiteboard in your bedroom, although might be fun for a night or two.
That could be. In fact, having somebody be the trainer could be pretty hot too. No, but I really want to reiterate what you're saying, because it's one of the things that I hear often with the couples I work with. It's like, oh, we want it, I want it to be spontaneous, like when we were dating. And I'm like, well, if you think back to when you were dating, you had a date on the calendar and you had a week to think about that and to plan your outfit and to, daydream about it. And I'm a big believer in putting a date on the calendar, and to put a date on the calendar and have as little expectation and as much anticipation as possible.
Yeah, but also to communicate, and I know I'm frustrated by by what I see with younger people that I speak to. I just, if you're in your 30s and you're married and you have 2 kids and you both work, you need to prioritize lovemaking. You have kids. Your kids don't have you. You have kids. That means that you need time. Couples need to have time for themselves. To have a date night twice a month is not enough to sustain the romantic relationship. People start to feel awkward with each other. Whereas if you make love regularly, you know how to facilitate someone else's pleasure. I wish that people. I wish, again. I back up a moment and said, look, one of my goals with Firmtech. I have 2 goals with Firmtech. Big goals. One, I want to provide men and eventually women, soon women, with data about their cardiovascular and sexual health that will allow them to have a lifetime of lovemaking that most people want and many people give up on. And 2, I want to provide people with tools that will give them greater sexual pleasure. Women have an advantage there. They have vibrators. Men don't have much, except our maximum performance range, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But women take a lot more medicine than men do, and women need help on that. Need help on that side. I mean, premenopausal women, postmenopausal women have all the same medical problems that men do, but premenopausal women take hormones for birth control, and they take SSRI antidepressants much more than men do. And these things, those 2 medications impede sexual pleasure, impede libido. And if women have data, well, they can then track it to hack it. They can decide what medications are having a negative impact on them. And one thing we notice on the male side is that when men see the negative impact of the SSRIs upon their depression, men will cut back on their doses, and some will even stop taking them. And if they recover their sexual function, then that makes them happier. So, I mean, there's something weird about giving people who are depressed medications that kill their sexuality. That is, my mind.
Sexuality is definitely one way to get things moving in terms of the hormones and the body and everything else. You said so much, and I have 2 questions.
Go ahead, sure.
I wanted to make sure I got this out. So first of all, I love what you said about having more sex. And you said something about the awkwardness, people becoming awkward with each other. And what it sparked in my mind was this idea that, like, I always say that, sex and relationship are awkward, right? It's like, there's odd positions and there's fluids and there's, it never well, at least my experience is it doesn't always go the way one thinks it's going to go. And so you kind of have to be good at maneuvering and comfortable being awkward. So I love that you said that about, the more sex, the more you can connect and work with the awkwardness. The second thing I had is like, as you were talking about women, what would the women's version of sex tech look like?
Yeah, well, we can't use the same sensors that we're using in women, and we can't use obviously you can't use the same form, but we will have it. It will be U-shaped. It needs to not be expelled, so it be worn overnight. I really want. We haven't perfected the form yet, but we want it to be basically inside behind the pubic symphysis, behind the bone. It'll spread out, but be very thin, as thin as like the Crave vibrator. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. It'll have inside the vagina. It'll give us the same information that the Linus vibrator does, which is we can measure. People can see just muscle contractions, the muscles that are contracting with orgasm. But I'm really more interested in what's going on in the clitoris. I want to know what's going on with clitoral health. And the clitoris, like the penis, it's about heart health, blood flow, intact good functioning nerves, and muscles. Well, I don't mean skeletal muscles. I don't mean muscle, pelvic floor muscles. Or they are involved somewhat in a minor way in both men and women with sexual health. They're not the major part of it, though. We're talking about smooth muscles. The smooth muscles we can't work out in the gym. The smooth muscles, the muscles that are around the small arteries and small veins, are involved in pumping blood into the penis or the clitoris and holding the blood in the clitoris. Because without blood, there's no arousal. I'm not going to say what type of sensors we're using over the next alongside the clitoris because it's proprietary. I don't think anyone's thinking about them, but I will say that we are going to be able to evaluate the pulse, cardiac rhythm, oxygenation of the clitoris, and more.
So I have one more question about the. I mean, I have a shit ton of questions, but we're getting.
By the way, we'll have the clitoral device will have a vibrator, but there are a million vibrators out there already. The vibrator is really there so that people can get, if the people are masturbating, they can get their data with something that's consistent with something that's relatively consistent and hands and could be hands free as well too. But on the other hand, the device will also be devised so that women don't have to use the vibrator function if they have a go-to favorite, and most women do, or favorites, I should say, because my wife has quite a few. You probably do too. Then they can actually see, on the game. There's also the health part of this, and then there's a gamification part of it.
So I have so many more questions, and we're heading towards getting to the end of our time. So in a moment, well, actually, no, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to say in a moment. So does the cock ring, do the sensors stimulate as well? Like kind of?
No.
No,
they don't. You're unaware of them.
I had this idea that there were little pulses going into.
The problem with e-stim in men and also in women is, and I think here remains sort of it's a niche sex toy, because I'll talk about my personal experience. It's stimulating and it's numbing. It's really hard, and women I know, on the basis of two women. I don't know your experience with e-stim. But the men I know basically they say the same thing. Now I think it's in a dom submissive situation. It's something else, becomes a tease and denial kind of thing, and that's different. I'm talking about e-stim to produce erections. It's really hard to sustain an erection with e-stim because the stimulation and then the nerves get numb from constant.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And
I've heard the same thing from women. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that makes perfect sense, and the difference between the stimulation and the constant pressure and holding of the cock ring Very different ways of interacting with the penis was my thought there.
Yeah. So we don't have E-stim. We are adding a vibrator attachment to our cock ring in August. That's with a partner play. I mean, it can be. I mean, here's a prototype of it. So once you open up a ring,
Mm-hmm.
you can slide. Your ring can then get slid through here, and this essentially has the vibrator. A lot of these C-shaped vibrators, the vibrator, it's too big. It's in the wrong position. It just doesn't work with women.
I love that you are thinking about these things, creating these things, and I'm
Well,
so happy that this is your mission.
I mean,
So
my Deborah, I'll show them. My wife just got the one that it was a Lilo Weavi product, Annie. Oh, she's busy. Anyway, she got one of these like most recent it's Weavive thing that supposedly you can wear for partner sex, and it looks beautiful. Like, they're tool Lilo Weavi make good looking things, but they're not designed with the anatomy in mind. The clitoral vibrator is in the wrong place,
mm,
and also the device is easily expelled from the vagina. So if you're having penetrative sex and I pull out, well, out pops the thing. Or if the woman changes position, out it pops. Well,
mhm,
so it looks great, great unboxing experience, and a good looking vibrator, but we won't use it.
mhm. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So, in a moment, I'm going to invite you to share if there's one thing that you want people to get from our conversation, because it has been a lively conversation and we've covered a lot of ground. But if you've got one thing that you want people to get from it, um, I'd love to hear that. And in the meantime, I just want to tell people how they can support the Better Sex podcast. Because, sex is a really complicated issue and it can make or break a relationship. And unfortunately, most of us don't grow up in an environment where talking about sex is welcome. That's why I created The Lab. It is a place to learn and to practice. If you're ready for tips and tools and exercises so that you can learn more, I invite you to go to the show notes and take a look at The Lab. Because you know what? Life is way too short for bad sex. So please check it out. And on that note, what do you want people to walk away from? Walk away with?
Sure. Two things. One, if you're an older man or you have diabetes or hypertension, it's very important that you learn your sexual health data. And right now, the only tool which you can do that with is with our tech ring. Two, for all men and for all those who love men, the men need to put a ring on it. Put a ring on it. You'll be harder. You'll last longer. You'll have more intense orgasms. Do it for your health, for your pleasure, and for your lovers.
Mm. Thank you, Dr. Justin. I'm super excited to have you here. Let's go ahead and where can people find you?
Sure. You can find me at Elliot, ELLIOT, at myfirmtech, MYFIRMTCH.com, or you can just go to our website, myfirmtech.com. And I look forward to speaking to you personally or hearing about your pleasure with our products.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Of course, all this information will be in the show notes, and I would love to hear if you hear your stories as well if you check it out. So please check out Dr. Elliot, and thank you again for your time and your energy. And I'm so excited for this. This area of work that you're doing. I look forward to hearing more about it as things progress. And for those of you listening, if you know or love someone who is male and has any kind of erectile dysfunction, please send them this podcast so that they can learn more. And, these kinds of conversations are really important to have because, the more we talk about sex, the more we talk about relationship, the better sex that we can have and the better relationships we can have. And so again, thank you, Dr. Justin. And for those of you listening, please like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.